In today's video, we're jumping back to our 2019 NHL Prospect Review Series, and we're taking a look at the top 5 prospects for the Edmonton Oilers. We'll discuss those prospects coming up next. So welcome back here to Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we're continuing our 2019 Prospect Review Series today with the Edmonton Oilers and their top 5 prospects. Now, if you're new to this series, you haven't caught the other videos covering other teams, I'll put a link to a playlist up here in the YouTube cards. You can go back and check out the other teams that have already been covered so far in this series. Now, keep in mind as well, with all the information on all these players, you're going to see a slide come across the screen here on each player. All of their biographical and statistical information come from EliteProspects.com, which is a terrific resource if you're trying to find a lot of good information on a lot of today's NHL's top prospects. Now, without further ado, let's jump in and discuss the top 5 prospects here for the Edmonton Oilers. Now, first up, we have 2017 first-round selection, Kailer Yamamoto. Now, Kailer Yamamoto is a small, speedy forward with excellent hockey sense and quick hands. He has a really strong work ethic that keeps him going strong. He hasn't shown a whole lot at the NHL level as of yet, but in the Western Hockey League during his time in junior and the American Hockey League so far in his brief time playing pro, he has shown that he can be a pretty good hockey player. Now, last year, unfortunately, he did battle some injuries and did have a limited amount of action that he was able to get into. He's a very impressive skater and passer who can make plays at very high speeds. Hopefully for the coming season, Yamamoto can have a healthy season and earn himself some more NHL opportunities, since the Edmonton Oilers do have a lot of opportunities so far, especially on the wings for the coming season. It's not quite clear, and there's a lot of spots that are currently up for grab. Maybe he'll finally find himself some more NHL time, but I do think it is quite possible that he very well might start the season in the American Hockey League. But if he continues to play well and he can stay healthy, I can certainly see him earning himself more NHL opportunity. Long term, I honestly still think that there is a possibility he could be a winger for Connor McDavid. I mean, Yamamoto certainly has the quickness to keep up. He's got the hockey sense. He has the ability to pass and finish as well. So long term, I still think there's a possibility that role could present itself for him, but he's certainly going to have to work a little bit longer to certainly get himself that opportunity. Now, next up, we have 2019 NHL Draft selection, Rafael Lavoie of the Halifax Mooseheads. Now, Lavoie is a very talented player. I'd say he had a good season last year, but it wasn't great. He did have a great playoff, but his regular season was a little bit less of expectations for sure, but he did tear it up during the playoffs and certainly made up for the lackluster regular season. He's got great size. He's 6'4". He skates really well for a big man and has a very high skill level. He does have some high-end puck skills as well, but you don't see it on a consistent basis. There are times when it's around a lot and other times where you don't see it for a while. So he could certainly improve on being a little bit more consistent with showing off his skills and putting them to good use. He does have a really good hard shot as well, and he scored quite a few goals this season from long distances. So that's certainly something that he has going for him strongly. He has really good vision, but sometimes he tries to force the play and causes some turnovers. So obviously he needs to work on that as well and make sure he makes a smart play and not try to force the higher end play that might turn out to be, like the pretty play. Sometimes he needs to make the smart play and not turn the puck over. He can be physical at times. He has also a defensive side of him that's pretty strong. And overall, his coach this past season did trust him in the PK department as well. So I do think he has a possibility of being a power forward type of player who can play all situations at the NHL level, but he still has a lot of work to do where he was just drafted. I see him obviously being a couple years away, but with the right coaching and the right development, I do see Lavoie as likely being a good, solid second, third line player at the NHL level in a couple of years' time. Next up, we have Tyler Benson. Now, Tyler Benson certainly had a rocky junior career due to battling a lot of injuries, but I think it's fair to say Tyler Benson had a really solid first pro season, putting up 66 points in 68 American Hockey League games, looking like one of the best forwards in the American Hockey League for the bulk of the season, and showing that NHL promise that he was showing when he was younger, more like at 16 and 17 years old. He's a very smart player who loves to make plays. He sees the ice very, very well. His skating is something something that's been continuing to be improved upon over the past couple of years. He's likely never going to have elite speed, but at one point his skating was more of a knock on his game, but it certainly has improved over the past couple of years. It's at a point now where you can probably say he's an average skater instead of below average, which is great. And again, like I said about Yamamoto, there's certainly some opportunities on that Oilers team, and given the fact that he had such a solid first pro season last year, I would not be shocked to see Tyler Benson at least get some NHL opportunities this year. And you never know, maybe if he has a really solid training camp, maybe he'll get himself a longer look at the beginning of the season. But either way, Tyler Benson is progressing nicely and is one of the top prospects here for the Edmonton Oilers. Next up, we have 2019 first round selection Phillip Berg, a 6'3" defenseman from Sweden, who's a terrific skater, one of the better skaters in the 2019 NHL Draft. He certainly has the ability to execute a give and go in clever ways to make the most of his skating. He moves the puck very well in the power play, and he flashes good puck handling and distributing skills as well. Now, the only problem with Broberg, as much as he's a great skater and good offensively, he can be careless at times with the puck as well, and there have been some bad giveaways as well during his time here in the past season. So certainly something he needs to clean up a little bit. He's kind of the high risk, high reward type of defenseman. So if he can continue to work on that and continue to work on his defensive game, as many of the younger defensive prospects around the NHL need to do, then he does have the potential to be a great NHL defenseman, likely project to be a number 2 or number 3 defenseman who will obviously have the ability to help out on the power play. Now, of course, Broberg, I was a little bit surprised the Oilers drafted him as high as they did. I mean, I do see him as being a really solid NHL prospect, but there was some other defensemen in the draft that I thought the Oilers, if they were going to go down that road, might grab over Broberg. But obviously, Ken Holland and his staff were really high in this player, and even though he went ahead of where many people had him selected at the draft, he does have a ton of potential, and hopefully things work out between him and the Oilers. Now, in my opinion, the top prospect still remaining in the Oilers organization is their first-round selection from last year in the 2018 draft, and that's defenseman Evan Bouchard from the London Knights, who had a really nice year last year. He was named the top defenseman in the Ontario Hockey League. He was also very productive in the AHL as well after being brought in for their American Hockey League affiliates playoff run. He's certainly a great offensive weapon. He's got a high-end vision, high-end shot, and is certainly a great asset on the power play. Bouchard, in my opinion, could project to be a top pair defenseman in the NHL who can run a power play. He's got good size. His defensive game, I wouldn't say it's real strong, but it's certainly average, and it's, he gets by finally. But the value of his game's not in the defensive end. His value is really all on the offensive side of the puck. Bouchard's skating is something that's certainly been a little bit of a knock on him over the last couple of years as well, but it's certainly something he's been improving on as well. And again, I think we can probably say he's up to at least being average right now instead of below average, which probably a year ago or so would have been a knock on him. I certainly wouldn't call his skating a strength, but it's certainly adequate now. His strengths are by far his patience, his vision, his shot, and his puck handling skills. When you put that all together, he has the potential to be a top pair offensively gifted power play specialist at the NHL level, and could really be that back end offensive guy that the Oilers desperately need right now. So overall, the Oilers prospect pool is looking pretty good. They certainly have some other guys that are honorable mentions as well, and very well will find themselves getting an opportunity as soon as this year. Some other defensemen like Ethan Bear and Caleb Jones, they've been in the prospect pool quite a long time now. So even though I don't see them as having as high-end potential as guys like Broberg and Bouchard, there's still guys who could be, second and third pair defensemen for the Oilers and be a big part of the team for the future. Of course, they also have a really solid forward in Ryan McLeod, who was another 2018 draft selection, who they were able to get in the second round last year. He stuck around quite a long time in training camp last year with the Oilers, and it really came close to getting himself, a bit of a look early in the season. So would not be surprising to see Ryan McLeod at some point here in the near future, maybe even this year, get a short-term look as well. I mean, McLeod's a terrific skater and can certainly add some speed to the wings, which this team definitely could use right now. So either way, I think the Oilers prospects are in pretty good shape. They have a lot coming here on the blue line, like I said, between guys like Jones and Bear, Bouchard and Broberg, and then of course they got some pretty decent forwards in there as well, like Benson and Yamamoto and Rafael Lavoie, and of course they have another goaltender coming up the pipe here in Olivier Rodrigue, who looks pretty decent as well. So overall, I like the Oilers prospect pool. Hopefully they can keep drafting well here over the next few years. Unfortunately for the Oilers, we've seen them have some high-end draft picks early on here in the last few years, not really work out the best for them. So hopefully that trend can change, and a lot of these guys that are currently their top prospects work out to be great players for them for many years to come. So, of course, as always, want to know your thoughts and opinions on the Oilers prospect pool. Which prospects do you think are going to have the most impact on this organization for many years to come? If you're new to the channel as well, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content. All kinds more prospect coverage coming along in the series before the NHL season gets underway. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will catch you next time.